Disclaimer: do not shake, spin, swing, or drop compasses. They will get wrecked, or bubbles will form, and they will not work anymore. No compasses were harmed in the making of this disclaimer.
Hello, and welcome to Orienteering. Today, we'll be going over maps and compasses. There's a lot to cover, so feel free to click a timestamp down below and skip to a part you're interested in. Anyway, let's get started. First things first, let's start off with the parts of the compass. Now, this isn't a real compass, mind you, but it's easier to see on this demonstration version. So, we got the thing on the bottom, the big flat part, that's the base, part that you rest your hand on. Then you have the circular spinny bit, that's the dial. It has the degrees on them. Then you've got the little spinny bit, that's the needle, it's the red bit, the part that always points north. Then you have this arrow at the top of your compass. It's your direction of travel arrow. It looks a little different for each, so don't worry. Then you have the lines inside the dial, up and down here. Those are the housing lines. They help you line up with grids on a map. And then you have bed, which is this little red arrow underneath north. It's kind of hard to see. Sometimes just a couple dotted lines on your compass or something. But that's where you want to line the red part of your needle up to. So north points north. Maps. There's so much information hidden in these pieces of paper, but I'll try and walk you through the most important bits. The first thing you want to do when looking at a map is figure out what kind of map it is. So I know this map is a topographic map, which means all these little lines tell you the elevation levels. There's even a little number there telling you how far above sea level it is. Other maps can show you the forestry or the soil levels and all that kind of stuff. But the most common kind of maps are these ones, topographic maps. Next up, you're going to want to figure out what all the symbols mean. Now, there is tons of symbols used on maps, and they carry over from map to map. Maybe we'll go over the specific ones in a later video. But most maps will also have a legend, and they will let you know the important symbols of the map and what the map's trying to get across. So here, this one tells us roads. So we got double lane highways, single lane highways, gravel roads, dirt roads, paths. Oh, so that's sort of the thing to tell you the most. And up here, yeah, we got some single lane highways, got some dirt roads over here. Oh, I think I see a little path up in there. Yeah, so that's how you sort of figure out what's going on the map. Now, once you have the map figured out, you kind of want to figure out how far things are, right? So, what you need to figure out is the scale. If we look down here, we have the scale of the map, 1 to 50,000. So, that means that for every unit on this map, such as a centimeter, that is 50,000 units in real life. So 50,000 centimeters. Might be a little confusing to grasp, but thankfully there's an easier way. So if we go over this side, it tells us that it is a 1,000 meter map. So every square is 1,000 meters squared, which means each line is 1,000 meters. So that creates an easy way for measuring distance. Watch, if we take a piece of string, where is that road? There it is. And we start, let's say we want to start on this part of the road. And we're coming down, make sure you use the bottom of the string. And you trace the string along the trail, and then you can take it off, line up the string to your map, and count the squares. 6. So I know that that stretch of highway that I measured was 6 kilometers. It's pretty easy. Now we're talking about bearings. So a bearing is simply the degrees you get that tell you what direction you want to go, usually from a map. So let's say the bearing you get is 100 degrees. All you got to do is turn the dial so that 100 degrees aligns up with your direction of travel arrow, because that's where you want to go. And then you lay the compass flat on your palm and try and put red to bed. So put that north needle into the bed position. A couple things got to watch out for though. If the compass is tilted, it's not going to work very well. If there's a bubble in the compass, that's also going to mess it up. And sometimes the north needle can be attracted to metal things or magnetic things in the area, like if there's a big nail in the table. So make sure it's up, flat, and you'll be good to go. So I've got my compass here. I've got 100 lined up to the direction of travel arrow. I'll slowly rotate my body until I put red to bed. And now, the direction of travel arrow tells me that that direction is 100 degrees. And I've got my bearing. Now, you may be wondering, how do you get a bearing from a map? Well, I've got my demonstration compass here to show you. It's pretty easy. So you're going to find a point on your map. So let's say this location right here. Put the center of your compass on the map. Then you point your direction of travel arrow where you want to go. So let's say I wanted to go to this point right here. Line that up. And then you turn the dial so that your housing lines, remember those, line up with the grid on the map. Let's see. Now I can see that my direction of travel arrow is telling me
294
degrees. So that's my bearing. Now, some of you may have heard the term declination. All it is the difference between magnetic north and true north. True north, what your maps point to, is just the top of the globe, so that never changes. But magnetic north is the magnetic field around the Earth. It's what your compass points to. And so that actually moves around from year to year. And the declination ends up differing depending on where you are. Up at camp this year, our declination is 9 degrees east. If you want to figure out your own declination, I put a link in the description below. Now, an easy trick for remembering what declination does is a little rhyme. East is least, west is best. And so, if you're taking a bearing from a map, and your declination is east, east, least, you take out that many degrees. So, up at camp, we would subtract 9 degrees from our bearing before you use the compass in real life. If it was west, I would simply add 9 degrees before using the compass in real life. Now, actually using a compass on a trip can be a little bit tricky, because if you're just taking your bearing and walking with your compass like this, odds are you're going to tilt back and forth and not end up going straight. So, there's lots of ways to get around that. The first thing you want to know is that when talking about compasses and bearings and that stuff, you usually use the term paces. If you haven't heard it before, it's pretty simple. It's just every time your right foot touches the ground, or every 2 steps. That's easy. So, the first way to figure out how you're going somewhere is beelining. You can do it by yourself, you don't need anybody around. But you line up your bearing, so if we take that 100 degrees bearing from earlier, line up and you pick something in the distance. So, I see a tree right in front of me. And instead of looking at my compass, I put my compass down, I walk to the tree, and then I look my bearing again and find another thing in the distance. The other way, all you're going to do is grab a buddy. It's a little bit easier, but it takes another person to work, is leapfrogging. So, what you do is you line up that bearing and you say, hey buddy, go over there. A little bit to the left. Perfect. You line them up with your bearing that you found, you walk to them, and then you take a new bearing. Thanks for joining me. There's a whole lot more to learn about maps and compasses, so let us know if you want us to make another video. You could also research for yourself online. I know compasses are a little hard to come by these days, but there's always phone apps and other things you can use. Well, see you later.